Rob Larew, National Farmers Union President. You're joining today. We're going to talk about the rights to repair, but I want to have you start off by telling us a little bit about what National Farmers Union is.
Yeah, absolutely. So for folks who may be listening and don't know who we are, we're actually one of the oldest farm organizations in the country. We're currently the second largest general farm organization across the country with members in all 50 states. And we're organized similarly to an organization like Farm Bureau, where we have independent state organizations. And really, a lot of the thrust of what we do and Farmers Union is work on behalf of family farmers and ranchers out there, and make sure that that grassroots voice, things that are actually happening out on the ground, is what drives us for policy change or any other activity that we need to be focused on.
And you guys are focusing on a couple of different topics. You support farmers, as you were saying, on a variety of different topics and such. What are some of those focuses that you have right now, especially? Because there's a lot going on, especially when it comes to policy.
Oh, no, no doubt there's a lot going on right now. And I know that there's a lot of attention, and Farmers Union is focused on the Farm Bill in front of us right now and what that might look like. Some of the ongoings in the halls of Congress, what that means for our communities. But really, one of the big overarching things that Farmers Union is really focused on right now is centered around a campaign that we call Fairness for Farmers. And what this is just making sure that in a marketplace in agriculture that's really increasingly becoming concentrated with really few players in the marketplace for everything from seed to fertilizer to the equipment manufacturers to the processors, grain buyers, and so forth, that in all of that concentration, while it leads to a lot of efficiencies in the system, ultimately farmers and we would argue consumers on the other end both really don't benefit from that. Farmers have fewer choices of where to sell their products or where to buy their supplies. And that also has the added impact of driving down prices that we receive for our goods and driving up the cost for those things that we're buying. So this campaign that we launched over a year and a half ago is really trying to get some improvement in a system that we think needs to be more resilient. A lot of this was born out of the pandemic, where we saw a lot of supply chain disruptions, again, in a food system that was really efficient, but didn't have that resilience that we want and that farmers should expect. So that's been a lot of our attention recently.
And that brings us to that rights to repair. You guys have been a big voice in advocating for farmers' right to repair their equipment. Let's start from the beginning. Where is this argument? Like, I mean, it's an age-old argument. People want this, whether it be farming or in our everyday lives with our technology we have today. But how does this affect farmers?
Yeah, it affects us in a lot of different ways, but primarily it's delays in cost. When you can't get your equipment repaired quick enough, when you're limited, who can work on your equipment, what you as the owner of the equipment can actually do to it, whether you can take it into an independent repair shop in town, or whether you have to wait a long time for the dealers approved repair service providers to come out and take a look at it and ultimately maybe just read a code on it or something. That adds time, that adds expense and delays, which if we're in the middle of harvest, we can't afford to do that. So it makes a lot of sense for farmers, but I think, one way that we try to explain it to consumers out there is if we had to do the same thing in our automobiles, if the only place that we could get our automobiles repaired, and certainly they're getting pretty high tech as well, but if we had to take it back to the dealer every time, we know that that is going to cost more. It's going to mean ultimately delays and not benefit us. That was the direction that the auto industry was actually headed not that many years ago, and there was an effort to fight for the right to repair there. Auto manufacturers abandoned that concept, and so today we have a lot of options to work on our own cars, to take them to the local repair centers, or to take it in the dealer if we choose to do that, or if that's where we feel like we're going to get the best attention. Right now, farmers don't have that choice in a lot of the machinery and equipment that we have, and that's why we think this is an important issue.
Yeah, and we've seen some strides, people advocating for it. The memorandums that have been coming out in the last year, are they enough to get this out for farmers?
Look, I think, other groups that are getting agreements out of the equipment manufacturers is probably a step, but it's not enough because this issue's been out there for a long time. And just a few years ago, we had promises made through a memorandum of understanding that equipment manufacturers were going to do better. That ultimately led to nothing. And so we feel like if they're really serious about this, then it shouldn't have to be on a piece of paper, which allows either party to kind of walk away from the deal. We need to codify this. I mean, we need to make some real progress, and that's why you're seeing a lot of states. There are legislatures on a bipartisan basis considering state laws. I think ultimately, though, we shouldn't have a patchwork of this across the country. We really need a federal standard that either equipment manufacturers once and for all make this right to repair true and certain for farmers out there and the owners of the equipment. And if not, we certainly are going to be pushing for Congress to try to pass something to compel equipment manufacturers to do it. But I think at the end of the day, there are multiple ways to get to the same conclusion, but a paper promise that folks can walk away from is certainly not enough.
And we are seeing those legislatives coming up and bringing up bills for rights to repair. And I've read about some in the past. Do they just end up dying on the floor, or have they just been voted down? Or what's happened to pass legislation on this
Yeah.
topic?
So on right to repair, I think the fact that you've seen so many states actually bringing it up is a sign that it's getting traction, right? And we had Colorado, actually, the governor sign it into law because the Republican and Democratic members of the House and the Senate in Colorado ultimately passed it and thought, farmers do deserve this right here in Colorado. So the governor signed it into law. We had a number of legislatures that got it part of the way through the process, but maybe not all the way through to the governor's desk. But I think, you're going to see in this next year more effort out there for states to do this. And so I think that's why right now we're seeing Congress introducing a bill on this side. And again, I think, we're going to keep pushing. We don't have one solution to this. And there are multiple ways to achieve it. We're going to be pushing in the states. We're going to be pushing on Congress because it just doesn't make sense. Consumers, when they have their own goods, when they have their own cars, it makes perfect sense that they should have that right to choose where they get it repaired or to work on it themselves. Farmers and ranchers deserve that right.
So I want you to paint that picture for us. We have these bills passed, we have the right to repair for our farmers and ranchers. What would that look like on an operation if when that happens? We're gonna say when, not if.
Well, look, we're farmers, right? We're always going to find that next problem, right? That we're going to have to find a solution to. But that's what we are. That's what we do every year. Each year, we don't know what the weather challenges are going to bring. We don't know what challenges are going to hit us at harvest time. But if we have more options on where to get our equipment repaired, then ultimately that's going to mean that we're going to get those repairs done quicker. We're probably going to get them done cheaper when we have some competition actually in the marketplace, and that's a win ultimately for everyone.
Well, Rob, is there anything else you want to add about this topic today?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, this right to repair gets kind of bungled sometimes, and folks are like, oh, one manufacturer or one brand versus another. This is not about any one brand of equipment right now. But the fact is that in the US right now, farmers just have a handful of places to buy their equipment from. And on top of that, when you have a particular color of equipment that you only have one option to go to get that repair, we can see that very quickly in our bottom line. And That's not the American way. So we're working to fix it.
And Rob, I want you to tell us where we can go to find more information from you guys on this topic and that farmers or fairness for farmers initiative that you guys are doing as well.
Absolutely. So the Farmers Union Fairness for Farmers campaign, which is fighting for right to repair, which is fighting for more competition in the livestock and the beef sector, for fighting for a number of fronts to bring more competition into the marketplace. Information can be found at NFU's website, which is nfu.org, or simply type in fairnessforfarmers.org.
Well, Rob, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.